Hey everybody, Asher here, and it is Kerbal Space Program 1.1, the pre-release time. Notice this X64. This is the 64-bit official edition, not just modified in there for Kerbal Space Program. And this is still a beta test, I will say that up front. In fact, it is something where everything's not 100% stable. That's why it has not actually been fully released out into the wild yet. I have actually had crashes while testing this out, even while attempting to record. So we can bear with that and sort of enjoy it together. Now, 1.1 is not something that's going to wholesale change Kerbal Space Program. That was the 1.0. That was the big flagpole that says this is our game. But what this patch is going to do, ideally, is make things better. It's in the Unity 5 engine. Things are supposed to be running a lot smoother. There's a lot of menu cleanup, and there's a lot of nice little touches that hopefully we can look at. And the best way to probably look at that, and I'm just going to restart what I was doing before here, is that we will call this 1.1 career. Now we're going to do this at normal difficulty just because that's simple enough. We could do hard, moderate, normal, but I kind of just want to see what there is to offer. We'll switch to my old Asher flag. When I do some more Kerbal Space Program, we'll switch up the flags. But let's go ahead and hit start and kind of take a look at some of the new features in 1.1. Okay, so first thing that you'll probably notice is that you load into this a lot quicker. But while the game world doesn't look necessarily changed, and this is running on stock without any updates, there are some new things to consider here. We do have new buttons that go to the same places as before. And one thing to keep in mind is I have a cat that I think is getting more interested in Kerbal Space Program. How are you doing, Miss Kitty? Is that we do have what Squad is called contextual contracts. Now that's probably not going to manifest itself I know, it's very exciting. We're not going to have it manifest itself very quickly here. The start of the game is still going to be kind of the same. You have your initial gather scientific data from Kerbin, launch our first vessel. That's all pretty much the same. But what we will have that's kind of a change is later on as you go deeper and deeper into the game. It's not just going to be, oh, fly to Minmus and then come back, and weeks later, oh, well, let's do something more basic like plant a flag at Minmus. No, it should be an order that more makes sense, or like go there, make an orbital station, go back there, make a surface base. So the progression is hopefully going to be a smoother arc instead of something that kind of jerks you back and forth and left and right. Now, I'm curious if the planetary missions and stuff kind of get assigned to, or if they're more just random chance at populating. But what we are going to do here, we have our first two missions accepted. Let's go to the vehicle assembly building, which you can see once again, this is supposedly all going faster. You can still right click and do all of your upgrades, but right now there's not too much to talk about there because we don't have the cash flow. So let's go to the VAB. Alright, so Werner von Kerman is looking a little crazy there, but we do have an untitled craft. First thing that you probably won't notice, but something that may matter later on, go ahead and get the command module out here, is that we do have a search box. So if I want to search for like fuel, we have our fuel tanks. If we want to search for engine, we have a solid state booster. Well, why am I doing that? We can just go ahead and put this on here right now. Now, for those of you who have not done the beginning of Kerbal Space Program, this is pretty much your beginning of career mode. So what you want to do is just add a few experiments, and you're going to take one little thing and launch it off into space. You can select your crew. Jebediah is fine as a pilot. We won't really need his vehicle stability assist. But we still have our little engineer's report, which is good. Parachuting is on the first stage. Thank you for the reminder. For all the years of playing this, the game still has to be babysitted a little bit for the staging. So we don't want that. Parachute on first stage. There we go. Unused monopropellant. That's better. Another button that's really nice, and we'll get into it a little bit later, is the manual, and that's now available in-game. It's very pretty to look at. It has all kinds of diagrams. It tells you all kinds of different things. You can look at different locations. Let's look at the celestial bodies. Look, it's celestial bodies. We have the sun. It's hot. We have Kerbin. It's where we are. We have Drez. And I'm curious if you can actually click on Minmus and go to Minmus. No, it just tells you about the big things. And then Elu, which is flying out there further. But if you haven't played the game and you don't necessarily like alt-tabbing out from the wiki to other things, this may help you more than you realize. It's all very neat and nice, and things are on fire, so that's fun. Let's go ahead and launch this because that'll give us hopefully some more insight to some of the other upgrades on the engine. Like I said, if you look at this, it's all kind of been smoothed out. Once again, this is the Unity 5 engine at play. But this is also where I started to get some crashes. So hopefully we will have this, we'll just call this Don't Crash. And maybe that mantra will be the difference here. Because remember, 1.1 pre-release, remember it's still beta's beta. This is why it's not in the wild. Launch button. So here is the launch phase. Once again, you can see that the graphics, the fidelity hasn't changed. We still have our spatter marks of a space program long gone past. But we do have Jebediah Kerman happily sitting in there. And we have a few things that are worth looking at here. We do have the crew hatch. We have buttons that pop out just a little bit more. So crew report from the launch pad. And if you haven't done this before, this is worth noting that there is free science that you can get on the launch pad. Like if you go EVA, which that actually completes a contract now. We perform our first EVA test at home. So that kind of got interrupted here. We can still do an EVA report here. Yay, more science. Let's go ahead and reboard. Technically, you could do the old thing of just putting a command module on here and getting a head start on science, but we're not worried about that today. So we can do the mystery goo. What does this button do? I don't know. I guess it locks it down. All right, so inoperable after transmitting, or we just have it there. And what else? Other things to show. If we look here, there is Jebediah the pilot, and you can see there's a little bit of scattering of light on here. There's a pretty cool button, interior overlay. So if we click that off, things change just a little bit. We actually get a view now of Jebediah sitting in the cockpit. So hello there, sir. I mean, the light's not exactly the same, but the effect's still there. So if we hit the C button, we can still look interior this way. But now we have other options as well. So I think that's, I do like that addition. It's just kind of a nice, neat feature, especially if you're looking for where your Kerbals are on different parts of a much more complicated spaceship. Totally nothing I've had to deal with before. So we're going to try and play this straight and see if I can not have this crash this time. So let's hit space to go to space. So it's not going to completely go to space. You can see we still have our big fiery explosion from 1.0, and we do have a crew report that we can possibly get. It would have to overwrite the other one, so it doesn't really matter. We'll get that later. Observe this mystery goo, so we can keep this experiment. Now, the last crew report that we got was flying over Kerbin, so that hasn't changed. But if we're up here like this, you can see we're going to get a few contracts that just go right away. Launch first vessel. Like I said, the progression is going to be kind of the same as before. And one thing that's pretty nice is that you do have, I'm going to go ahead and parachute here. This is what actually crashed me last time. We are dropping down to the surface. Our parachute is going to unload eventually. But if we look at all the different contracts that we've completed here, this is how you get your first kind of big set of money, just barely breaking altitude records. We got up to 7,000 meters, which is good. But overall, like I said, it's a lot of the same game with some nice new additions, and it looks like the parachute is probably going to be okay. There is always a question of, is it safe to do this, but so far things have been, other than like the rando crashes, things have been loading in smoother, things have been going smoother. I was kind of hoping to get a little further out than this. But we do have the big orange light for being in the atmosphere going slower, and flip over. Parachute survival skills activated. I was actually wondering if we go further out from the Kerbal Space Center. But we can go ahead and time accelerate still. That's the same button. We don't want to do this all the way into the ground because there's still... Well, I wonder here if 1.1 and going to Unity 5 has made the physical time acceleration a little less crackeny or a little less... stuff going like it shouldn't here, but we'll spare Jebediah today. Oh, look, an actual nice little landing. So let's EVA you again. As per usual, EVA report, flying over Kerbin shores. Stump the experiment here, because one other thing you can do for science. Let's see if there's any new options here. All right, we're out on the ground. We're on EVA. We can only get an EVA report. We can't even plant flags right now. We haven't unlocked that technology for flags. All right, EVA report from KSP. And then we can't actually jump up and RCS into here because the force of gravity is too strong. Still, though, let's see. We have returned to the surface. Yay, so a little bit more money. Let's go ahead and recover Jebediah, who's now looking up at the sky. Alright, so EVA report, we got the crew, he got 1 experience. All pretty usual. Let's go to the tracking station. So here's Gene Kerman. Hello, Gene. This is the tracking station. And I will say this looks a little crisper than I recall it. And we already have a few contracts for everything else. But what we are most interested in is Don't Crash, which does seem to be working. So let's go ahead and just recover that vessel. We don't even need to fly it. We can just hit the recovery button. And we get all the science back, all 33 science. We get all the parts back for pretty much their value. So, cool. And while we zoom out here, let's see if there's other cool things to see. There's the moon. I'm sounding with my drawl today. There is the moon. And this is just, once again, it's just... everything is going just a little bit smoother in 1.1. I know that doesn't necessarily translate here. We've recovered our first crew in a mission. We've performed our first of our experiments home, so gather scientific data. So we have more contracts that we can get in a second, and ooh, that is nice. One thing that I didn't exactly appreciate in the patch notes, but because they just said it was kind of cool how they do it here. If you're ever wondering how things are rotating around a system, it gets thicker as it actually goes around. That's pretty exciting. Same thing here. If you want to know which way everything's going, and this is all prograde, we don't have anything that's going retrograde here. Like if we double click on Duna, same thing here. We have Ike that's going around there, so here's Duna. Pretty fun. And if we go all the way, I just want to see what the entire solar system looks like. Yay. Now there are some mods that I do recommend pretty much for everyone. Kerbal Alarm Clock is probably the biggest one because that helps you plan your missions more than anything else, and it still requires you to kind of do your missions yourself. But yeah, pretty nice. Now I'm sure there are some mods out there that'll actually obscure some of these things here, but we can actually time warp to the next morning if we want to. We can do plenty of things here, but let's go ahead and go back to mission control. And look at this. This is supposedly the contextual contracts. We have what's completed. We have what's available. We can do an observational study, fly below X meters, fly above, observe observational study. We could haul a hammer solid fuel booster into flight above Kerbin, which is flying at X speed. Well, we can always try that because that'll still... well, we kind of want to do that anyway. We want to do altitude and then that X speed. That's going to be interesting if we can actually hit those milestones there. We'll accept that one. I'm kind of curious to see what that one looks like. And then we have other things like escape the atmosphere, which are more of your basic story ones. Test the MK parachute in flight. That kind of overlaps pretty well. Now, we do have the money to upgrade and accept some more contracts. Did I say that right? I probably said that wrong. Contracts, but we're not going to do that just yet. Stack decoupler test is pretty useful. And the Flea solid booster on a suborbital trajectory over Kerbin. Well, technically everything I'm flying right now is a suborbital trajectory, but we got to get to 100,000 meters to do that, and we're not quite there yet. So if we go to R&D, which I did do this in my previous crash recording, but not now, you can see it looks like there's a few new icons here, but a lot of the things, unless it's later on in the tech tree, I haven't taken the time to look. This doesn't appear to be changed too much, which once again, that's the difference between a 1.1 and 1.0 upgrade here, so we didn't even need to test that. We already have it. A lot of those test contracts are just to unlock something ahead of time for you. What do I tend to want to do first here? Improved service bay, improved all these. Radiator panel, help dissipate heat when traveling in space, which is pretty important. Radial decouplers tend to be as well. So let's fly back up here. Alright, so here's our basic ship. And do we have a basic fuel tank yet? No, we just have a swivel engine. That's fun. So our contracts, of which we have a few, call for us to do some different things here. I'm very curious to see if they changed. Well, there's a fuel tank. Interesting. Well, let's do it like this. I'm very curious to see if they've actually changed how these solid-state boosters interact. Because if they do what they're supposed to, at least previously, well, not supposed to, but what they actually did previously, it's going to be fairly amusing or full of explosions. I don't know. Once again, have a hammer 10, flying, Kerbal, altitude 5,000, 10,000, and then the appropriate speed. We might be going too fast. I don't know for sure. We are under our weight limit by a lot. And one of those looks like it's going to be attached to us. But once again, if we want to search here, we're like at all parts, and we just want to search for decoupler. There we go. We actually do have a stacked decoupler. Yay! I'm not totally crazy. Let's always put that on a separate stage. Last thing I want is to fire this rocket and decouple at the same time. So it looks like a few things did get moved around because stacked decouplers used to be a little bit further out. And we have a Science Junior, which we can put up here. It's not, maybe not the best thing to do, but we're going to try anyway. And we'll put a Communicatron over here as well. Now, communicating and sending off a bunch of science is not awesome if you don't have batteries or something to back it up. And we don't have batteries just yet. But I am curious to see what the mission population looks like when we do this. So if we review our contracts one more time, and can we can't stretch this window out. Test the MK parachute while flying at some meters at some speed. Test this while flying at around the same range. Yeah, this will be fun. Let's launch. Don't crash, please. Let's give it a shot. With, of course, instead of Jebediah, let's put Valentina in there for some sweet, sweet flying experience. Now, like I said, the way this did work previously is that you would kind of fly up and you would wait for the solid fuel booster to get near the end, and then you'd let the other one burn out. I'm curious to see if that has since changed or not. But we are going to be going pretty high, pretty fast. Like I said, we may be going well beyond our speed limit here. So here's this, the overheat. It's not actually going to explode. Alright. Well, that may make our testing a little easier here, right? There we go. So I just did it too early. Alright. Solid fuel. Explosion. There we go. The overheat's taking its dear sweet time. So this doesn't quite work like it used to. We'll turn off the SAS. We're just trying to pitch over here pretty hard. There we go. So see, we're at 8,000, 9,000. We got some contracts complete here. So you've broken the land distance barrier to 1,000 meters. And we took it into flight above Kerbal. Thanks for helping us. You're welcome. Crew report. Flying over Kerbal's water is new science. Observe the mystery goo. So we can keep that. Observe the materials bay. Keep that. It's probably a decent time as any to decouple because our other mission here, we've broken 10,000 kilometers. Let's go ahead and decouple. Because all we want to do now is just to land splash down in the water. Now I could try an EVA with Valentina. I'm not always confident with how that's going to go in the water, but we'll save this one for the non-flying. So when was our other contract here? We do have altitude record 22 kilometers, so that's more free money. Contracts. So we got one complete, and so we got to wait. I'm sure there, once again, there are mods that will kind of help you out with that. We don't need the SAS now. We just need this one parachute to work. Our center of mass is way up here, so hopefully the Science Junior doesn't eat it In this design, it probably should have been put on a different location, but that's okay. So once we get to, oh, we're going to be going too fast. So we need to do just a little flight and then have this happen. Because I'm pretty sure you need to stage it at this altitude. Well, we'll try it anyway and see if we can get the contract complete. Parachutes should be safe to go. You can right click and see. It's safe when the appropriate altitude range. Did I just cut the chute? Oh, chute destroyed by aero forces. It said it was safe. Did that change? Well, why does this always happen the first time I fly Valentina? She's just going to go into the drink, isn't she? I'll have to review the video and see what exactly happened there, because right now, Valentina, let's look on the inside. She's so excited. She knows her parachute's coming. She's just waiting for the last second, and bloop. Nope. Your test failed, or I clicked cut chute on accident. Or it said aerodynamic forces were at play. Once again, this is 1.1, so if we F3, lift off, let's see what happened here. We have all kinds of damage. We can revert to launch. So splashdown hard, MK parachute splashed hard. Containment unit, Science Junior, all destroyed. So rip Valentina. That's why it's beta. She doesn't have to be ready just yet. Of course, she's the orange suit. So she'll always come back. But let's go ahead and go back to the Space Center. So as I said before, I'll have to review a little bit what happened here. But if we go back to this, we do have enough things to at least escape the atmosphere and make it to some other places. That testing parachute, the parameters like this always means you need to make kind of a dedicated build towards it. I was hoping we could sneak it in, but obviously that was not going to happen today. But I think this is going to kind of do it for now. So let's just talk briefly about where we're going next with Kerbal Space Program, which is right here. And if we look at the astronaut complex, we have Valentina that's lost. She will probably be back here. We're just going to say she'll be back here because I didn't turn on that permadeath setting. Yeah, Kerbal Space Program. What I am going to be doing with this on my channel is we'll look at 1.1 some more here in the days to come and kind of build off what we have before, see how far we can push some of these contracts. There are some other new features here that we haven't quite gotten to yet. And then I'm also going to be doing some demo videos for 1.1, such as how to fly certain places and other things that you may be curious in seeing. So definitely leave your thoughts in the comments. Definitely good to hear from you all again. I know I've had more than a few of you asking, am I going to be doing KSP 1.1 and what more you may want to see from me. So like I said, just ask and I'm happy to provide. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Kerbal Space Program 1.1 will very likely be out soon. So I look forward to seeing you flying as well and hopefully not blowing up your crew like I just did, but I guess that's part of the fun, right? Right. Thanks for watching. This is Asher. I'll see you next time.